And she explained to me that what a body might do when someone dies. That one thing in particular she said that I would need to do is get a towel or a scarf and wrap it around the neck because your jaw hangs loose.
Okay. Your mum's in the room and you want to say 3 things to your mum. 3 sentences.
3
to your-
sentences.
Maybe it could be a question.
Okay, so it would be, I love you, you're always right, and you've left me to deal with all the mad people on my own.
King Eunice, would you like to?
What,
You've
3
got to
things?
do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, why did you leave so soon? No, only 2 years old. I miss you. Please, Jesus, watch over us and make sure we're good.
Welcome back, 2nd episode. How you
Made
feeling?
it.
How you feeling, King?
Good, man.
Yeah.
Reception's been good.
It has been. It has
Yeah,
been. It
man.
has been. It has been. It has been amazing, to be honest with you. And the thing is, like, from when we spoke about our experiences and how it's affected us with the loss of my mum and the loss of your daughter, I think we drew in a lot of people that haven't been able to speak before, that felt like they've got that opportunity for them to now find that platform to speak.
For real.
So it was amazing because a lot of people reached out to us, and I know you can back me on this, that and I would never have expected them to say the things that they've said to me. Like, I was in Brixton and one man stopped me and said to me that he booked a ticket to go see his mum in Barbados after watching our episode. And then and a couple of guys that told me that they cried when they heard that you lost your daughter. And they hugged. Like, my cousin told me she hugged her children when they came back from school. So tight. So, like, we really... I don't even know how to pronounce. Like, I don't even know what to say, but we really drew the audience in, and because it's so relatable,
It's authentic as well.
it's
man.
authentic. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's your story, it's my story. Everyone's got their own story, and they'll draw in
absolutely
from the way that we told our stories in their own way.
exactly. But you know what? Having said that, we did draw in a special guest, which who is with us today. We call her Lady M Bison.
M Bison.
M Bison. We're not gonna go into too much of why the M Bison is there, but it's M Bison. So thank you for coming down today.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're
that.
welcome.
She's hard work, I must say. But thank you for coming. But
You're welcome.
Look, what drew you into Checking Tuesdays? What caught your eye?
So it was on somebody's story and it had a disclaimer in the beginning and it was just like warning, and I thought, oh, let me watch this.
Yeah.
And then when I watched the story, I was taken aback because I don't often see people being as real and authentic about their pain. Normally that's saved for conversations you have with people that you're close to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was good because other people are going through things that they might not discuss.
Yeah.
And seeing something like that can just encourage them to be honest and open.
Okay. So, like, what did you get from like, you know, when me and Kim were sharing our stories, like, how did that make you feel?
I felt like we're all kind of connected in a way through pain.
Yeah.
But people don't discuss that. So you just go on with your everyday life and
Taboo.
things feel normal.
Yeah.
And it's not really something that I think people discuss in the community often.
Okay.
So it just felt like, oh, you have a connection with someone that you've not actually met,
Yeah.
but can maybe understand how you feel in some ways.
So-
Even though everyone's journey is kind of unique, it still was like...
So in terms of relatability, what was it that, I guess,
It was
you
just
said
pain.
just
It's
pain
just
in
knowing
general?
you've gone through loss, and a lot of people that are young haven't necessarily gone through that yet. It's something that is inevitable in
That's
life
true.
in general,
That's true.
but it's not always something you expect to happen.
But you know what? Why is it that it's so difficult to speak about your emotions or talk about how like your pain? Why is it so difficult? Like, for men growing up, I know that some fathers can, you know, culturally tell you that you have to be strong and protect and provide for your woman or the family and everything. But sometimes it's like gone beyond that. Why is it so difficult? Why is it such a taboo?
See, you're saying that from a man's perspective, but me as a woman, I find it difficult to talk about my emotions. So
For real?
I know a lot of people and I've got quite a lot of friends, but
Yeah.
in terms of who knows me on a deep emotional level, hardly anyone.
Really? Is that because you've masked yourself in? What is it? What's caused you to not share that?
I think it's a few things. First of all, my mum was and is my best friend, so I felt like she understood me like 100. So it's easy to express yourself when somebody understands you.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to like friends, there's some people that you connect with more on a deeper level again that you feel that you can share yourself with. But then thirdly, I would say that a lot of who you are is your own responsibility.
Okay.
And a lot of the things that you go through, you have to rely upon yourself to get you through certain things. And I've always been able to trust myself very well.
Okay.
So therefore, a lot of the conversations I'll have internally, I can more or less problem solve. But that does not mean that at times I'm not supposed to lean on other people. I am.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's difficult if you think that you might not be able to articulate how you feel. And sometimes you feel very conflicted on how you feel.
Yeah.
Or if you express one emotion, it could normally be associated with something else, but actually it's not when it comes to you because we're all unique.
Okay.
So sometimes it's better, or you might feel like it's better to just not talk about it.
Yeah, I hear you. So having said that, I guess it's more of just an understanding after watching the first episode, what caused you to feel like you could relate to this? Because I haven't spoke to King about it.
Okay.
And, he said that, you said there's a lot of when you watch the first episode, you could relate to a scenario out of the episode. So I guess it's just more of just checking in with you and just exploring what that scenario was and how it affected you.
So it was you speaking openly about losing your mum.
Okay.
Because I lost my mum in April 2018.
Okay.
So that was just, somebody else is going through it. Because even though you can share things amongst your peers or amongst your family, if they're not going through that
understanding,
you can be empathetic, but you still don't understand how it will feel.
Yeah, it's true. And I guess, how would you feel talking about the loss of your mum today?
I feel like talking about things that are painful is what helps set you free and what helps you heal, because it's concealing the pain, which is the problem. And I think a lot of the time people compartmentalize how they feel in order to cope. And there's an element that you must do that to move forward, but in order to heal, you must talk about what hurts you. Otherwise you cannot progress, I think. You could affect your mental health. You could affect your capacity to be able to do things because it is constantly on your mind, but you don't feel maybe safe enough to talk about it, or you're not confident or comfortable enough to discuss it. So you leave it suppressed. And I think that that's when emotions can become dangerous, when you don't express them.
But that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
The last episode, when I said avoidance was my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
You understand? Because it's like, it's the pain is too much to face at the time. Yeah. And you're not ready to face the pain. Yeah. But there comes a point where you kind of have to face the pain. And I guess that's when we checked in on a Tuesday.
Yeah, for real. But I guess what I want to understand is, yes, there was coping mechanisms and there was masking the pain and everything. Yeah. But it's, right, your mum passed away. So it's like, what happened when your mum passed away? How did your mum pass away? Like, how... I guess for me to understand your pain, I guess I'll need to understand a bit more of how it all took place and where the scenario. Because with me, I had a year's worth of journey with my mum where she was going through cancer. Okay. And then after that year's journey with my mum going through cancer is when my mum passed away. That year I went through with my mum with her cancer. As much as it was a difficult year, I'm so glad that year I was with her, because that year was beautiful. Because we traveled together, we went out together, we shared so much together. We even prayed together. So that year, I thank it. At the same time, sometimes I hate it.
Just to interject quickly, did you? I guess you probably did. Did you have in the back of your mind that this might be?
No.
You didn't?
No, not once. Not once.
So you were just enjoying your time with
not
your
once
mum.
did I think that. That's what I'm saying. So when I got that phone call,
it was a complete shock.
Yeah, it's mad.
So you're saying even knowing still didn't prepare you?
No.
Because see, from my experience, I didn't know. So my preparation was 3 weeks.
Okay. Could you? How would you feel if I was to ask you what happened? What?
Yeah, no, I'm fine to answer that. So I knew my mum was ill around July 2018.
Okay.
but it was more like she had a stomach infection. So it's like, okay, fine, like you went to hospital because you wasn't feeling well. You've had a stomach infection and you've been released. The rest of that part of the story I can come to at the end, but from what I was told and what I was shown was that my mum had a stomach infection.
So that was the initial diagnosis?
Yeah, so my mum's going to have time off of work.
Yeah.
And even though that she had a scan and it was dark or grey, it turned out that having loads of course of antibiotics would clear it.
Okay.
And she was fine because the next month after that was my 30th.
Okay.
So my mum arranged my 30th birthday and it was great. I had a joint one with my best friend and it was amazing. But I didn't actually know my mum was ill then, with cancer. I just thought she had a stomach infection. So when I knew in March that I could see that now, that my mum's deteriorating and she's not okay, and I'm someone that's quite highly intuitive, so I already had the thoughts that I feel like your mum's gonna die. And I'll say to myself, why are you saying these weird things? Like in my head. But I always know that I know things before they happen anyway. But with that, you're not going to want to know or trust that. So I was thinking, that's just weird. No, it's not. But then I could see physically that she looked different. And but then obviously I'm looking at my mum and my dad and they're actually normal. And as part of like a household sometimes, especially as a child, if your parents act like something's normal and you know that they're doing that because that's what they're doing because they want to protect you. You kind of leave them to do it. Even in the back of my head, I was like, something's not quite right. And I remember mentioning, I think, the C word like once, not in relation to her, but in somebody else's story. And my mum is someone that's highly intelligent and was always able to put on a really good front. And she let it slip for like 1 second, and it was 1 second too slow because I clocked straight away that she responded in a way that she shouldn't have.
What did she
But she backtracked really far. It was very, very subtle, but her response was touchy. And I thought, that's a bit strange.
Do you mind sharing what that response was?
It was, I do remember it was a video, I think, on Instagram with a man being told he had 3 weeks left to live. Wow. But then he suddenly turned to vegan and being vegan and having cannabis oil.
Yeah, and CBD and all that.
Yeah, and then he reversed it or something. So I think I said something like, oh, Mum, don't you think this is good? Like, this man did that. And it was just the tone of voice and how she responded, even though she caught herself doing it and then tried to hide it, because my mum was always smarter than me in general. It was 1 second too slow. And I was like, so then it gave me the doubt. And then I started to read up on some of the stuff that she was doing in relation to her stomach infection. And it was like on the same path as cancer. So then in my head, I was thinking, okay, if I was her and I know that I've got a lot of pride and maybe I was that ill, I might not want the fuss and I might keep it quiet. So then I thought, oh, maybe that's what she's doing, but I trust that she has it in control, so I just won't push or won't say anything. But there was one friend that I shared with and said, I think that mum has this, but she's not saying anything. And she said, well, why don't you mention it to her? I was like, because how do you mention it to someone? How do you say to somebody, I think that this is what you have, based on your intuition and no proof? It's quite an awkward subject.
Yeah, for real.
So instead, I just spent a lot of time with my mum anyway because we really got on. We had a really good relationship, and in that year I'd moved out. So I spent time in my family home and often stayed over as well because it was just the norm for me to be in my family setting because it was my mum, my dad and my brother. So that it was normal for me to spend time with her. But it was, when I think back, there was times when she would say like, oh, I just really like the fact that like you're so thoughtful and you still spend time in the family home. And I was thinking, but of course I would, because we're close. But obviously if somebody's ill and they know that you're spending time with them through choice and not because they're actually sick, can you imagine how that would make you feel? That it's actually genuine, not because you think that time's running out or something's wrong. So when I think back, I'm like, oh, that's what it meant. Because I knew she was kind of frustrated with feeling unwell, I bought her like a book so for her to journal, because my mum would internalise a lot of her stuff. But then that's helped me because I could look back and see her thought process and why she didn't say stuff.
So did she use it?
Yes, she did.
And she wrote down her feelings and everything.
Yes, and dated some of the stuff as well.
It's funny though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's mad.
And it was painful to look at it, but like when people would have questions like, but why didn't you know? Why didn't you tell? The answers were there because she actually didn't think. If you've never been ill before, and the one time you get ill, well, obviously now it results in death, but you think that this is something you're just going to go through with your husband. I'm not married, but I can imagine that you speak in your own language, you've been together for years, and this is just another hurdle that you'll go through together that you've chosen to go through. So I kind of understood that rather than feeling annoyed or pushed out.
So your dad was aware, right?
Yes.
Was your brother aware? Right?
No, my brother's 10 years younger than me.
Okay.
Was your dad the only person that was aware, or were there other family members or friends?
No, I don't think there was definitely not any other family members. I think maybe the pastor knew.
Okay.
I think. I'm sure, actually. No, I don't think I'm sure. But it was very limited.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of saw it as, okay, the two of them just wanted to just go through this. Because also reading the journal was talking about, you know, when you've overcome it and you're discussing it with people and telling them what you've gone through.
So at what point did you give her the journal, when you had the intuition that something was...
Just when she was saying that she was ill and I had to take time off of work.
Okay.
And I just thought, oh, you internalise a lot.
Right.
Mum, you talk to me, but let me just give you this because it might help you.
So once you gave the journal and she was using it and you was aware...
I wasn't really sure she was using it or not.
Okay.
It was
You gave it to her with the intention.
Yeah.
So from the time you gave it to her, how long after that did your mum pass away?
It's a really good question. From knowing later when she was diagnosed, which was, I believe, was July. It was within 9 months that she passed.
Okay. And when did you find out?
3 weeks.
3 weeks before she passed away. So yeah, like you said, you didn't get much preparation time.
No.
So, and you gave her the book in about...
Let's just say maybe August or something. I'm not sure. August, September.
Okay.
Something like that. It's a thought that just came to me one time when I was in Paper Chase. Which
Intuitive
is like
thought.
So you see, when you found out the 3 weeks before she passed away, how did you find out?
Intuition.
Okay, so your mum didn't actually tell you?
Well, she did on the day that I felt bad. So, I'm just trying to remember. Because I think it was the 22nd of March. So, I went to work as normal. And as I said, I didn't live in my family home. I'd moved out within that year.
Yeah.
And I'd felt very sick. So, are you guys familiar with feeling anxious?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
of course.
For me, feeling anxious means that I feel like something's up, but I don't know what it is. I feel sick. I feel like I can't eat. And there's a feeling of uncertainty, but I'm not sure what it is. Where sometimes you can feel anxious because you know what you're uncertain about, like a job interview.
I had that on my way here. That anxious feeling. Do you remember when I said to you, call up my man, and then remember? So yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
But that's something that I live with anyway, because I often feel like that. Okay. And I've seen online that sometimes people that claim to be intuitive sometimes live in a very anxious space, which is just normal for me. But it's not normal if you're anxious for no reason. Because kind of the definition of feeling anxious is, it's uncertainty about the future or something in particular. So if you're just feeling anxious all the time for no reason, that's actually quite concerning.
Yeah, something that doesn't sit with your alignment.
Yeah, so that's where it's like, that's where you have to differentiate between feeling anxious and feeling intuitive. Because intuition is something that's trying to tell you something. But sometimes being anxious, it could be a scenario you've created in your head.
But then the question is, how do you differentiate? Because like we've spoken about this off camera, we said like intuition, I feel like never fails you. But it's you understanding that language of,
I feel like
this is what my body or soul is trying to tell me. Like something was telling you that something was wrong. So how do you know the difference between anxiety and no, something's actually wrong?
The only thing I can think that helps you differentiate between the two is if in general you're being mindful, you might meditate, you might pray, and you're trying to live like positively or, just with a clear mind, then therefore, if you're going to be intuitive, it's going to come to you when you're fine.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're already in a space and a state of anxiousness, sometimes I can't differentiate between the two. So if I'm nervous about a job interview that I'm going for and I'm feeling bad about I might not get the job, for example, that might be intuition trying to give you a heads up, or it might just be that you're nervous. Yeah. So that means I'm already not in the right frame of mind anyway, because I'm a bit erratic and not centered. So because I've woken up to go to work in the morning, and I feel uncomfortable, well, why? There's no reason for it.
So it's basically doing something to keep you centered. So like you said, it could be meditation.
Yeah, so if you're just in general,
just something,
and I feel like that relates to being honest with yourself and talking up about your feelings. So therefore, if you suddenly feel caught off balance, there's a reason for it. You're not always in a continuous state of erraticness.
Just getting away from that chaos.
Yeah.
Being in
centered space almost, and then that way I feel like is when you can be in a position to receive the messages that you should receive.
So having said that, so one morning you woke up.
Yeah, so I got a call from my dad and he was asking me a question for something that was quite basic, and I believe it was to like, how do I use the washing machine?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, like you could hear in his voice that he wasn't like okay. And rather than be like, or ridicule him, like, why are you asking me? It's like I answered the question, but I could tell that he wasn't all right. And I'm not quite sure what he said, but he made some sort of reference to my mum. And I thought, no, something doesn't feel right. And then that's when I started to feel really unsettled. And I was like, oh, I think I need to come home. But it was like 9 o'clock or 9:30. So I was only at work for a really short space of time.
Okay.
And then I started to feel even worse. Like I felt like I needed to be sick, but that's again, normal anxious vibes. And I remember I was like, I can't even concentrate now. So I thought I could just push it to the side. But I was like, I actually can't focus at work. And at where I work, they're really inclusive. So we actually have a prayer room for every denomination. There's prayer shawls, there's Bibles, there's Qurans, etc. all in there. And I thought I need to center myself because I'm feeling too chaotic. And I went in there for a bit and I was just like, I was talking to myself. I remember like saying like, whatever it is that's happening now, like you need to face it. So all of those thoughts that you might have been thinking, the time might be now where it is what it is. So
at this point, you had already thought.
Because I'd already thought from before.
Yeah. So then when you got the call now, it just.
I'm like.
Yeah.
I think the time might be now. You need to understand that your mum might be dying. Like you need to understand that. And I was like to myself, but it can't be. And I was like, no, let me just prepare that this is what it might be, even though no one's not told you that. And I think I was at work for only about an hour or maybe hour and 15. And then my boss wasn't there, but like another person was there. And I was like, I actually need to go home. My mum's not well. I can't be at work anymore. Like I need to go home. Even though I didn't actually know what was wrong. And then I went home, as in my family home, which I still had a key to. And I went in the house, my brother was there. My dad was there, so was my mum. And I remember saying like, just trying to remember because some things are hazy. I went in to the bedroom and my mum was lying down and looked very lethargic, and I was like, what is wrong with you? She was like, I'm just tired. And I'm like, no, you're not just tired. Like I think that I need to call an ambulance. And she was just like, okay. I was like, I'm telling you now that I need to call an ambulance. So I'm going to call 111. So tell me what the symptoms are that you're feeling and I'm going to call them. And I remember saying to my dad, my mum needs to go to hospital. Like, I don't know what I remember saying something like, I don't know what it is that the two of you are playing at, but it's going to stop now. But then I came out of the room. I wasn't angry. I came out of the room, I called 111. And I think I made up maybe some of the symptoms just because I think sometimes they don't care.
Urgency. You wanted to create
I needed to create a sense of urgency because I felt like it was needed.
I don't know.
And then my mum said, okay, I will go then. Just give me a minute. And then I'm seeing that she looks so tired and exhausted. But a part of the story I've just forgotten actually is a week before that, I called my mum's GP. I forgot. I called my mum's GP and I was like, oh, I feel like it's something wrong with my mum. And I know that she's been going to, but obviously they can't discuss anything with you because of patient confidentiality. And I'm like, well, I feel like she needs a blood test or something because there's something wrong with her. And I'm calling you as someone that's concerned. So can you tell her to have one? Like, what is it that you can do? And she's like, oh, we can't coerce your mum to do things that she doesn't want to do. But we can... I can call her. And then she said a term that I don't know what it was, but when I Googled it, it was cancer. I was like, okay, so I'm right. I was right all this time. But because I'm talking to her with a sense of like authoritativeness, she thinks I know, which is why I'm telling her she needs a blood test. But I don't know that she's ill. I'm just saying I think that she's different. But obviously she's thinking I know. That's why I'm saying that, which is why she's saying, okay, cool, I'll do that. And then I remember calling my mum and I was like, this is what I do. She was like, are you concerned? I was like, yeah, I am. I feel like you seem lethargic, you don't seem okay. And she was like, okay, I will get an appointment. And then I remember the appointment taking a few days to happen because that's how it works. And then she had the blood test. but didn't know what the result would be. Sorry. And then fast forward to that day when I felt uncertain was that. And then I heard my parents talking in the bedroom, and my dad was like to my mum, like, she keeps asking me questions, but you won't let me tell her, or something like that. You won't let me talk to her. And I just thought, I just walked in the door and just looked at both of them. And my mum was like, come here. And I was just like, like in my head, I was like, I know. So my mum was sitting on the bed, and then I was on my knees at this point, and then like she held my hand, and then she told me, and then I just said to her like I know. I know, Mum, like we're very well connected, so I know. And then she was like, oh, I didn't tell you because I wanted you to, basically, because I turned 30 that year. But even though we're like in the other year, it's still like a few months from that. But she was just like, I wanted you to travel, I wanted you to go on your holidays, I wanted you to enjoy it. That's why I didn't say anything to you. And I was like, I know, but we need to go to hospital now. And at that time, my dad was just crying. My dad doesn't really cry. He's very, like, I would say my dad's very good at, as a leader, he's good at expressing a range of emotions. But that doesn't mean that it's somebody that he would always cry. So at this moment, he's crying. So I know it's serious.
You knew something was wrong, yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's go. But instead, my dad drove. And, like, before we even left the house, my mum couldn't walk down the stairs.
Wow.
So I'm like, I don't know what these two are doing. Like, we need to go, like, now. So my dad helped her, and then we went to the hospital. And then when we got to the hospital, I came out of the car first, and then I walked into A&E and was like, oh, my mum's like drifting in and out of unconsciousness. She can't walk. So then they rushed a bed out because I needed to create urgency. I looked in there and saw there was like 20 people, and I was like, I'm not sitting in here with all these people. I'm not doing this. We need to just go. And then they rushed out, and then that sped it up. But at that time, I had a missed call from a private number on my phone, and then so did my dad. And it was the doctor's surgery calling both of us, telling them the result of the blood test that I pushed, saying she needs to go A&E now.
Wow.
But you've come back days later.
Yeah.
So what's the point? We're only here because I've made it happen. The blood test results are like irrelevant now. We're here.
So when you went to the hospital, so you're at the hospital now, you're in A&E. And what happened then?
I think they did tests again and was just like, at this point her feet were really swollen, so they were actually, her potassium levels were low, which I think is associated to salt. So normally when someone has swollen feet, it's because the fluid in the body's not distributing properly, which is normally a result of, I believe, like liver failure, which I kind of knew all of that in my head anyway, because I'm always on Google Googling things. Okay. So I was like, I already could see, okay, you've not got fluid distribution well, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then she got, I think, put into a room. I think we were there for maybe 3 or 4 days. I don't actually remember the time frame. But I remember the first night my mum not wanted me to stay in the hospital, even though I wanted to. But my dad did. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll go to the family home. That's fine. And I just don't remember the amount of days afterwards. But then the doctors came back with all of their results and stuff, but told me and my dad the results, which was, sorry, there's nothing we can do.
Oh, God.
And then, like, I was, because I'm somebody that always likes to know facts. I'm like, what do you mean? And he had to actually physically show me, like, the scans and was like, this is how your mum's cancer started when she was here last year. And I'm just looking at my dad like, okay. And he's like, this is where it is now. It's spread to 2 organs. And I'm like,
is that the first time you actually
seen it?
Concrete?
Yeah.
Seen. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was just like, in films when they're like giving you the there's nothing I can do conversation.
Yeah.
You feel bad when you watch it, but when it's actually you don't actually feel bad because you're just like, what is this person talking about? Like, there must be something you could do. I was even being technical, like, so you're telling me that her liver is not working, so, and there's fluid around it, so why can't you drain it?
Yeah.
I was like, the liver is one of the most self-healing organs in the body, that should you cut a part away from it, it regrows itself. So why can't you do that? And then the man looked like he wanted to cry. He was like, because she's too ill. And I'm still like, so you just can't train. He's like, she wouldn't even be able to go for a procedure like that because it's too far gone.
So did they send you home with mum?
No, I stayed in the hospital. I can't remember if I was staying from before then or after then. But I stayed on the hospital floor because we had a blow-up bed. I remember doing that. But I remember that every day that I was in that hospital, even if it was 2 or 3 days, which I can't remember, I would always go into the toilet and cry and then be like, look at myself in the mirror and was like, you can't actually do this. Like, you can't keep crying because you're not going to focus on what you need to focus on. And that is the amount of time your mum has left, which nobody knows. So I'd do that and then act normal. And then I think at that stage my mum could eat and was obviously still talking and everything like that, was still very on the ball. But like, I've never been in hospitals. I've only been in hospitals when people give birth to children. Like, I'm not a sick person. My family are not really sick. So being in a hospital anyway makes you physically feel uncomfortable because you know that people go there when they're ill or when they're going to die. And then I remember one of the nurses speaking to me and my dad and was just like, you have to choose between basically hospital, hospice or home that you want her to die. How do you make a decision on those 3 places? Two of which are going to feel like hell, which is the hospital and the hospice. So the option is home. That was the only option. But by that stage, when I left my job, by the way, I told one of my closest friends that I feel like knows me really well. And I said to her name's Jade. And I said to her, look, this is how ill my mum is. I'm not going back to work. I don't want anybody asking me how I am in a week's time because I've quit. I've quit. So this is the login details for, we have something called iTime where you have to log the time that you've worked. This is the login details to the iTime. This is my manager's email. This is the supervisor's email. And I just don't want no one talking to me. This is the list of friends that I want you to tell what's happening. And I don't want people to keep asking me questions. But I think it's important that they know. Especially one of my close friends, Debbie, that lived with me. Like, just tell them that these people, this is what's happening. And I want everyone to leave me alone. Like, when I say leave me alone, I don't want you asking me every day to give you updates. Like, my concentration is on my family. It's not on anybody else.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why did you make that decision to quit rather than just to say, I'll be back?
Because it was serious. And I wasn't interested in money. I wasn't interested in work. I was just interested in that time thinking that before, remember, I'm being told like nothing we can do. You still have hope. So I'm just like, my mum's ill and I don't care about anything.
I understand that feeling.
I don't care about anything.
So then you decided to go home. You decided the third option, which was home.
Yeah.
And then so you're at home now.
That was difficult because I've never been in an ambulance and that's how we had to come home.
Well, you say it was difficult. What was difficult about it?
Because normally you're going in an ambulance to get help. You're going in an ambulance to go home to die. And then I remember my mum being like, oh, but are the neighbours out? And I'm like, Mum, like, don't even need to worry like about that. Because at that time, what they're doing is they're then setting up like a hospital team to come to the house to put the things that you should need in the house. So that means that in my parents' room, like a hospital bed was in there. So that the main bed was shifted to the side and that was in there.
Okay. And how was your journey from once you're at home now and you've got the equipment set up and it's like, it feels like a hospital, but it's not a hospital.
Yeah. I think the hardest part of the journey was the nurses or the doctor, I can't remember. Because my dad then drove all of her, like, you know, I said the blow-up bed and then a suitcase and then whatever other stuff was there. So he drove in his car and the hospital was about 7 minutes from my family home. But the hardest thing was being given what's it called? A no resuscitation form that you had to sign to say that should she die in transit, no one's allowed to resuscitate her.
Wow.
Who had to sign that?
I want to say my dad did. I can't remember, but I had it in my hand.
Do you know what?
Because this is the type of stuff that makes you realise how important marriage is. When you're somebody's spouse, automatically the decisions and stuff go to you.
Automatically, it's true. I remember, and do you know what? Before I say anything, I feel like I've got to say thank you first of all for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Because whilst you're talking to me about mum, and you're telling me about dad, and telling me about all the decisions you got to make and everything, I could relate so much to it. And I was sweating, bro. I'm shaking, like, it's mad, because there's a lot of things that we could relate to, and I get it now. I get it. And so much things I can relate to in terms of the whole cancer and the spread. Because when my mum, when the blood vessels popped in her brain, and they showed us the tumour in the brain, they showed it on the scan. And then one day, I sneaked into my dad's room, my mum and dad's room, took the scan out, put it against the wall, and I saw it. And it was just like, raw, that was in my mum's brain. So when you're sharing me about this cancer being spread on the scan, it's kind of deep.
Because it's real. It's like, even though you're hearing the words, I've always been somebody that's like, I need the facts and I need to see the visuals.
Yeah.
And as much as it might be traumatizing for other people, that's how I cope. The most information that you can give me is the better way that I can cope.
Yeah. But I guess, like I said to you, I was going to say to you, I commend your bravery. To have a form in your hand to say that, right, if something happens to your mum, we're not going to resuscitate her. How'd you sign that? How'd you sign that? How'd you even get the pen on paper? And the fact that you're travelling from the hospital to the house, and like you said, usually go in an ambulance to the hospital for the help, but they're basically sending you home.
Yeah.
Saying you're someone that we can't help.
Yeah, and it's and also I've never been in an ambulance before.
Yeah.
I've never needed to be in one.
So all these journeys, all these experiences that you're having, in the most harsh way, I guess.
I think the hardest thing was the fact that my brother's 10 years younger than me, and he thinks differently, and that's fine because he's younger.
It's just the two of you, yeah?
Pardon?
You and your brother?
Just the two of us. Okay. And even in the hospital, my mum and dad were like, oh, we're not going to tell him. And I was just like, are these lot crazy? Like, they're really doing this secret thing. This stops now, you know? Because even when we was in the hospital, the first day, and I've told you all of the chaos that's happened, I'm like to my mum, you need to tell your sisters, okay? You need to tell your sisters. She's like, no, I'm not going to tell them. I was like, Mum, one of your sisters lives in Southampton, yeah? I am going to tell them, okay? I'm not going to alarm them, but they need to know. And I gave her some scenarios where I was like, I understand you don't want to worry anybody, but it's serious right now. And also, this is how you felt when this sister did this to you and didn't tell you. And this is a major scale. So I'm telling you right now that I'm going to tell them. I won't worry them, but I'm going to tell them that you have cancer because they need to know, Mum. So I told my mum's two sisters. As the one who I'm very close to both my aunties, but the one that lived in Southampton I called first because I thought she needed more preparation. So I told her first, and then I called the other sister, and then the daughter of one of my aunties, who's my close cousin, Simone, who actually helped me with my mum until the last day. I told her, but I think it was maybe her daughter's birthday the day before the day. So she was like preoccupied mentally, but they couldn't process what I was telling them, because they too on their separate journey had a feeling like there was something wrong with my mum, but because again they live far, they weren't coming to the house, whereas I'm coming to the house every day and still seeing my mum.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was hard. So getting home then meant that we were supposed to have agency workers, like home carers, as well as like nurses. But the twist in the story is my mum was a support worker. And had always been like a reablement officer. A reablement officer is somebody that helps somebody help themselves when they're unwell. So you might have broken your wrist or you've broken your leg, and you've got like 6 to 8 weeks that a hospital has a discharge team out that helps you. So therefore you wear like a certain uniform that's similar to like a nurse, and you go into people's houses to help. And now those exact same uniform people are coming into the house to look after my mum. Like, how do you think that made her feel when that's her job to help other people? Now that's what she's got. She wasn't accepting it. So they basically had to, I think by law, come to our house.
Yeah.
But you see, when it came to feeding, washing, moving, my mum wasn't on it. So me and my cousin had to do it. And that was difficult, because now you're actually seeing somebody deteriorate really in front of your face. And in some weird way, you're being given like trust in someone's final moments to be the one to look after them. It's a weird feeling, because it's like, if anybody could choose who they could have with them on their journey, it's your last bit of control that you can have. Yeah. And the decision was, I don't want them helping me.
So when did that thought kick in? Because obviously,
I think my mum was already thinking it.
Okay.
But I mean, from the moment that the women like were discharged, so let's just say it's 9 o'clock, 12, 3, 6, 9, around the clock. They just had to come. They came to the house sometimes, sat down and signed. We had an overnight nurse that was, I was just like to her, I'm just going to tell you now, this is going to be an easy job for you. This is the kitchen, this is the front room. She's not going to want you to do anything. She doesn't want to be given unnecessary pain relief. Because I don't know if people know this, but if you have things like if your body is already like shutting down, and somebody gives you like morphine, which is a strong medication, it's just going to speed up the process of you dying, which obviously some people may want or not, but your body's not going to be able to take all these drugs and all these things.
Especially when you're weak as well.
Exactly. So my mum was like, I don't want pain relief unless I'm in pain.
I guess now I'm going to ask you the
killer question.
I'm going to ask you the uncomfortable questions.
They're all uncomfortable.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess this question I'm going to ask you is more of like, it's more, I'm just going to go straight into the point, is who found her?
I was in the same room.
When it happened?
Yeah.
Talk us through.
So I'm sure the time frame is 3 weeks, because I always remember 22nd of March in my head was the day I was like to my workplace, bye, sorry, not come back here. And then my mum died on the 7th of April, so I think that's 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's about 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
2-3 weeks, yeah.
And the whole process of it, obviously I'm seeing my mum deteriorate and stuff, and I'm even on Google, like Googling end of life stages, so I can see each one of them, so I can prepare myself for what's actually happening. Because I said to you, that's how I cope. I need to actually know. As much as something is the worst case scenario, I need to know what it is, and then I can cope. It's the uncertainty I've never dealt very well with in life in general. I grew up in quite a stable home, so I think certainty and it makes me secure. And I've always been quite a secure individual. So even in uncertainty, if there's a level of certainty, that's how I cope. So I'm seeing end of life stages, and I'm Googling and I'm seeing them. And then one particular evening, one of the nurses was there who would always, there was a really nice nurse, I can't remember her name, but she would still come up and look and see if my mum was okay, even if my mum didn't want her help. Okay. She still would come up and even sometimes talk to me to make sure I was emotionally okay.
Yeah.
And we was in one of the bedrooms, and she was talking to me, and she said, I said to her, like, what is it that I'm to expect? And she was like, do you really want to know that? Like, you really want me to tell you everything? I was like, you need to tell me everything, because that's the only way I'm going to cope. So you need to tell me when it happens, what is it that I need to do? Or what is it that I don't need to do? And she explained to me that what a body might do when someone dies. That one thing in particular, she said that I would need to do is get a towel or a scarf and wrap it around the neck, because your jaw hangs loose.
Okay.
So in order to close it, if you use something tight, then the muscle seize back up. Okay. So I was like, okay. She was like, eyes might be open. I was like, fine. She was like, you might need to turn the heating down and open the
So this is
windows.
When someone's slipping?
Or no, when someone's dead.
Oh, once, okay.
You might need to open the windows because there might be a smell. Fluid can leak out. And I'm like, yep, keep going. But the whole time she's talking to me, I'm crying. She's like, do you want me to stop? I was like, nope, keep going. Just keep telling me, so I know what it is. Because I know that when it happens, no one else is going to know. And as I said, there's a level of control that I need.
You are brave.
So basically when it happened, 2 of the things she said would happened, which is your eyes stay open and your jaw opens. So when I was doing stuff, like, people were like, what are you doing? I was like, don't ask me any questions. I know what I'm doing. This is what you need to do. So
what did you do? What happened?
The funny thing is, the day before my mum passed, I don't actually understand how, you know how I was talking to you guys about having like a healthy mind, and I take supplements and stuff like that. I also am somebody that doesn't compromise on my sleep. So I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, because I know how important it is for the body to heal just in general, and how good it is for the mind. Even through my mum being ill and sometimes waking up in the night, I was still having good night sleeps, which I find bizarre. But I think it's because I knew that I needed to do that, because if you start having lack of sleep, that's when you're going to start like not functioning very well. So I think I knew that as an undertone, which is why I could sleep. But I still could hear my mum call me in her sleep. If she called me, I would still get up and go over to her. And I'm not someone that can hear anything. I'm normally out. But the night before that she died, I knew that she was going to, which I think is strange that I was like, I gave her a kiss and then went to sleep. I sometimes think, who does that?
So what was that moment where you felt you knew? Because my daughter...
she's not talking anymore.
When my daughter passed, I had no clue. So I don't know.
This is again where I'm talking to you. It must be intuition, because I don't know. But at this stage, she's not responsive at all and hasn't moved at all, because up until maybe 48 hours before, my mum was still very chatty and still very there.
But something just hit you and said...
I was just like, this is... When I wake up in the morning, she's not going to be there anymore. So then I still don't know why that means that I didn't sit up and stay up. Why didn't I do that? I sometimes think, why didn't I'm not someone that has regrets, because in life in general, because I try to treat people well and I try to live well enough that should something happen, I know that I've lived well. So even when it comes to like minor things like relationship breakups, I've treated people well, that when we end, I don't care if you're calling me 100 times, like that's your guilt, that's your thing. I'm trying not to even have that emotion in my life at all. And because I always used to spend time with my mum, and people used to ridicule me and say, oh, you're always at your family home, you've moved out, you still stay over. I'm always like, I know I need to do for me. So imagine if I didn't do that. The year that I decided to move out of my family home is the year that my mum was sick. So that already kind of prepared me for not seeing her every day. But I still made the time to spend with them because it was important to me. But if I listened to other people about, oh, you've grown up now, why are you still going to your family home? Then I would then end up regretting not spending the time that I did. But I spent the time naturally. Which is why when my mum said odd things like, I really appreciate you coming here and stuff like that. And I just think, what, mum? It makes sense, because if you know that you're ill and you're holding a secret, but someone's coming to see you just to see you, it's genuine.
Yeah. So you fell asleep, you kissed a good night.
Yeah.
You fell asleep. The next morning you woke up.
My cousin woke me up.
Okay.
But softly. And I don't even know if she said something, because she looked at me in a way. But I looked over and then I knew.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then my brother and my dad were sleeping. So I'm sleeping in my family room, my mum and dad's room, by the way. So is my cousin. So I already said my cousin also kind of quit her job. Well, my cousin had 5 kids, and she just said to everybody else, look after my children, I'm not interested, my auntie's sick.
Wow.
And everyone just came together. And like, to do that, it bonded us, because my cousin's always been there for me, and she's like 8 years older. But to just be like, not interested in my other life, I'm focusing on this, because her and my mum were also very, very, very close. That's real love to me.
Yeah. Of course.
She's not interested in her 5 children. Her youngest at the time was 7, and that child had lost her dad the year before. And she still was just like... So she woke me up, and we were both in the room like, okay. And then she went in the room next door, and that's where my brother and my dad were. And she woke up my dad first. And that was just horrific. That, to me, out of the whole journey, I think was the worst thing.
What happened?
Because he just was... Actually, during the whole process, I kind of had a little bit of like angst towards my dad, because he wasn't accepting what was happening, if that makes sense. So he was having conversations with me like, oh, when mum returns to work. And I'm like, who's returning to work? There's nurses in our house 24/7.
This is after that diagnosis of...
Yeah, like we've come home and you're talking about returning to work, but you have to just think in another way of how sad that was.
That was his coping mechanism.
Exactly. Right? And then he would put up the uniform in one of the rooms, and I'm like, this man is not getting it. Like, that's what I'm saying to myself. And at that time, in a weird way, as an adult, I felt... It's such a strange term to use, but I felt almost abandoned, because I felt like a child again, where my mum, I need you and you're not here. You can't help me because you're ill. And then I need my dad, but you can't even help me right now because you're not even thinking what's happening is happening. And then my brother's going to work as normal, and I've already said to my brother, look, this is what's happening, and I'm trying to prepare you. I'm not trying to be unkind, because I know that sometimes I am quite a harsh person and quite straight to the point. I can also be very sensitive, but I am quite straight to the point. And I understand that people receive information differently, so I will adjust my personality accordingly. But I was like, this is what's happening to your mum. But even my brother, I don't think was really...
It sounds like everything that you just shared, it sounds like to me, I'm guessing you could say the same as well, that you were the decision maker in everything that you was doing within the house. Whether it comes to your mum and dealing with her, and then whether it comes to your dad and your brother, dealing with their emotions as well.
Yeah, but from like the beginning part of the journey, it would have been my dad making decisions with my mum. So you see, like sometimes when you're in a close family unit, you shift.
That's right.
Leadership.
Yeah, and I guess.
Sorry, was that a conscious decision, or did you just?
It's unconscious, because the leadership's shifted because my dad's obviously been carrying this burden. We may as well call it that, knowing full well that he can't tell me, and I'm intuitive and I ask loads of questions, and he can't answer me because, my parents don't lie to me, and they never have done. They've always been very good parents in the sense that, you know, as a kid, if you were going to get the Barbie, you would get it. There was no broken promises or stuff like that. So that's why there was a lot of trust. So it's like at something that was really major, this is the one time that I didn't know, which is why it was easy to not hold any feelings, because it's like, if I've had a secure life all this time, the one like secret that I wasn't told, which obviously was detrimental and ended in death, but neither one of them thought it did. And I know very well that if either of them thought it was going to be that, they wouldn't have hidden it, sorry. They wouldn't have concealed it.
Yeah,
honestly know that.
So I'm gonna keep going back to, because one thing I've noticed about you, I'll come back. You can go back. No, I'll come back to it. I'm gonna say something, but I'm gonna come back to it, because what I want to understand is, I don't want to drift off too much either.
Fine.
But when so your cousin woke you up.
Yes.
You then went to your dad and brother.
Yes.
After you had done that, what did you do next?
Well, my dad had come into the room first before my brother.
Okay. And
he was just saying things like, she said she wouldn't leave me. And that, I think, was the worst thing. What do you say to someone?
Yeah, it's true. What do you say to someone?
I don't even remember what I said. I just was consoling him.
Yeah. And at this point, you're consoling. You're still being brave and consoling everyone else.
But then I had to wake up my brother and tell him.
Man.
Okay, and how was that for you?
The second worst thing I've done. It was really hard. Because my brother was sleeping, and then, like, you know, you're mindful that if you're going to wake somebody up and something's urgent, you don't want to frighten them out of their sleep.
Yeah, but Asians don't have that. I'm glad you said that. Asians don't have that filter. Wake up!
No, but a lot of people didn't have that filter. A lot of people around us didn't have no filter.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, in my opinion, exercise good judgment or good levels of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And remember, emotional intelligence is being able to control and feel your emotions. A lot of people don't have that. Yeah. And that's not a criticism. It's just an observation.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we started this. We want to create awareness of that stuff, because yeah, there's a gap in the market, man.
It's something that people need to work on. It's like, and the thing that and this is another thing where I say, when I said earlier on about me not always expressing myself with people, is because I think that the misconception is when I feel like I'm labeling myself a lot, but it's the only way, like, I feel like people can understand stuff. But if you are somebody that's, like, let's just say confident or self-assured or have high levels of emotional intelligence, it does not mean that all of the other negative emotions are exempt and you don't feel them. It's just what you choose to go with.
And you know how to deal
because
with them.
all of the other feelings are still present. Fear is still present. Sadness is still present. Everything else is still there. But it's like, what do you choose to go with? So when I'm having that conversation with the nurse, knowing this is the worst thing I can hear, I need to hear all of this because I need to know how to cope. But the other emotions that people would say, like, oh, I wouldn't have been able to hear it. I couldn't stomach it. I felt like throwing up. I was crying through the whole conversation. Like, my face was swollen. Like, but what I had to choose to do at the end of it was what I needed to do. but it doesn't mean that the other feelings are exempt. And that is what I can't be bothered to explain to people sometimes. So when I'm told, okay, you're really confident, it's like, yes, but do you think that I don't feel insecure? Do you think that I don't feel uncertain? I do on a regular basis, but I will choose to push through with that. That's long to explain to people sometimes, which is why I'd rather keep it to myself. Because it's like, you don't understand, so I'll just leave it.
But thank you for sharing that with us today. But I'm going to go back again.
Oh, cool, sorry. We always like drift off. Okay, yeah, so my dad in the room.
So your dad in the room, and he said that
she'll never leave him.
She'll never leave him.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're obviously trying to console him. Then
Yes.
you then spoke to your brother and woke him up and told him about...
I just said to him, Mum's gone. That's all I said. But I stroked his face at the same time.
Okay. And then?
He got up and then obviously went in the room. And then I think I may have done the towel thing that I told you guys.
Yes.
And I remember being asked, why am I doing that? And I was like, don't worry about that, but this is something that the nurse told me that I need to do because of the muscles. And then I opened the window, and then I believe I closed her eyes, and then I remembered the nurse said, so when somebody's expected to die, you don't call the 999?
No, you don't.
You tell the GP.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No.
So
I'm not aware of the GP.
So you call the GP, and then from the moment you call the GP, you know that you're supposed to know what funeral home you're going to call. But you haven't even discussed it. My dad's not even discussed this with me. So at another stage in that morning, I'm now in a different room with my dad, and he's like to me, can you call this person? Can you call this person? So I've called 10 people that day and all told them my mum's dead. The people that I'm thinking of that I called that I don't remember, I think I called... No, I know I called the pastor. I called an old family friend. I don't remember, but it was all on my dad's phone. I may have called my auntie, but each time I was being mindful that I'm delivering bad news to people. They could be driving, they could be at work.
So you had to tell that story around, 10 times. Like.
Yeah.
And each time, and you're still thinking about how other people are feeling at the same time.
Yeah, where they are.
Because you're saying that you're being mindful about sharing that bad news. So you're still in that frame of leadership, of controlling the whole situation. I commend you once again of that bravery. Like I said, it's a difficult moment. I get it. I've not had that experience because I didn't get to bury my mum because she was in a different country. So cousins buried her.
That's painful.
But I watched it on Skype. But for you to actually be there firsthand and go through each procedure and then go through the funeral and calling the funeral home,
because we had to do that there and then.
Yeah.
So my dad now is in that room with me after I've called people, and I think we are on the floor, and he's crying into my chest. He's saying all sorts of things that I can't even remember, and at that moment I had to say to him, do you know what funeral home that we need to call? Which felt really insensitive. And then obviously
so you did
he's
this all
like,
on the
why?
same day?
I wouldn't know. Yes, because the body needs to go.
The body needs to go because obviously once they pass away, it starts to...
The body needs to go, and it doesn't go to a morgue. It goes to the funeral home. So from the moment that you make that call, that's £650.
Wow.
Because it's a call out.
Yeah.
But I remember asking him and feeling really insensitive, but knowing that, well, what am I supposed to do? Because the body's there.
Yeah, of course,
I need to ask him. And I remember him being confused and being like, you're asking. I was like, Dad, I'm really sorry, but the nurse said that, I need to ask you this because, it doesn't go to the hospital. It needs to go to, the funeral home. And then he's like, oh, okay. And he was just like, he told me to speak to his friend who had just gone through something with his own, his similar, where he'd lost his son. So that friend was one of the people I actually called now, I remember, and he came to the house. And then he took me to the shop to get, I think, a patty. And we went to the funeral home and told them face to face. And then I came back, there was just loads of people in my house.
So, can I just ask, just because time's coming to an end, but I just want to say, what do you do on a daily basis, to cope with that trauma?
I think, for me, personally, and what I would advise anybody else, is that you need to allow yourself to feel, but you can't get too lost in it. So I've read before somewhere, you're allowed to feel a multitude of emotions, but you are not allowed to stay there. So if I was to feel really angry about the situation, which I haven't felt, but if you used to feel really angry about something, you allow yourself to feel those emotions and you go through it.
But then how do you steer yourself away though? Because some people, I guess it sounds in theory easy, to not stay, like if you're angry about something, because you went through quite a traumatic experience. It was quite over a long period of time. I mean, and you've got to kind of process that. So you've got your own emotions to go through. So for you to say like, I need to feel this and then not stay in it, how do you do that?
That's where, like, if you're already centered individual who's already been doing that, then therefore when you're now in the worst case scenario, that's foundation's not going to leave you.
Yeah, I guess
there's still going to be levels of uncertainty and and emotions that you've never felt before. But it's knowing that you're allowed to feel and you're allowed to talk about how you feel.
Yeah.
And then just not allowing yourself to stay in that place too much.
I like that. So it's basically you're saying to anyone else that might be going through something similar, just center yourself so then you can
cope.
You can cope.
But the worst thing you can do is ignore.
Yeah.
Because that's when you start to internalize and then it will come out in other ways. And the one thing I was thinking about is like, I can't turn myself mad. Because me and my mum used to have like jokey conversations. She'd be like, oh, if you was to die, I'd be in a mental institution. I was like, if you was to die, I'd be in a mental institution. I wouldn't be able to cope. I wouldn't even be here, mum. She's like, I wouldn't be here. And I was like, well, so we both know that we wouldn't be able to function. But that's obviously just saying it figure of speech. But also as a child growing up, I used to say to my mum, oh, I feel like you're going to die before I have children. And I feel like you're going to die before I'm married. Mum used to be like, why do you think that? And I was like, it's just something I feel. But my mum knew I was like intuitive, but it's not like I often had scenarios where I would say this was going to happen and it happened. But it was something that my mum knew and it was something she put in her journal.
Wow.
Because then it's something that she thought about.
You see, I want to do something, because I read up about it because I've been doing a lot of reading recently.
Yeah, I read a lot.
Yeah, me too. And I was one of the people that kept in a lot of the pain and masked it and used to ignore it. But I read up something and it said that when you lose someone, you imagine that they're there and you speak to them. Don't know how much of it is true, and you tell them what you want to say to them as a way of offloading.
Right. So
you don't have to do this today, by the way, but it's something I will try one day. I might even try it now. That if your mum was here in the room right now, what would you say to her?
That's a really good question.
It's deep.
Because it's like, you know,
why did you leave me with all these nutcases? Because loads of people are emotionally unstable.
Do you know what? So I'm going to do it like this.
I would say to her, look, you left me to deal with everything.
Speak to her.
No, but I kind of do in my head anyway.
No, but imagine she's in a room right now. Let's say she's sitting next to my king.
Oh, that is really good.
Speak to her.
I'm going to try that.
Because I know if my mum was here, I'd be like, Mummy, I love you. That's all. Because that's all it is. I love you, and
I think I would say something similar, like I love you and stuff, but I would have loads of questions for her, like, you left me behind, I've had to deal with this, and I know that my mum had quite a difficult life, so I often feel like, okay, it was my turn. And my mum was someone that was very good at holding everybody together.
Yeah.
So she did that anyway.
She was the glue.
Yeah, so she did that, and then it's like, you've passed it on to me. You're like, oh, mum, you've left me to do it. And if I'm actually crying and I'm angry, or I'm angry, when I say angry, it's angry because I miss her, not because of anything else. That's often what I actually say.
Right, so say, let's round it up. Let's say 3 sentences. Your mum's in the room and you want to say 3 things to your mum. 3 sentences.
3 sentences.
Maybe it could be a question.
Okay, so it would be, I love you, you're always right, and you've left me to deal with all the mad people on my own.
King, would you like to?
What,
You've
3
got to
things?
do it too.
Yeah, I'd say, why did you leave so soon? You know, only 2 years old. I miss you. please, Jesus, watch over us and make sure we're good. From a spiritual point of view.
Yeah.
Bills?
Yeah,
I get all to this one, brother.
I think I would just say to my mum that I love you and I miss you lots, and I'm not being the same since. And I'm sorry if I'm not going the right way you wanted me to be, but I'm trying, and I'll get
you
there
are,
one
man.
day,
Inshallah.
That's really good.
So yeah, but thank you for being here today, and thank you for
Thanks
sharing.
for coming, man.
Sharing such
You're welcome.
such a close to your heart situation with us, because we're strangers to you, and for you to be so open and share that, I commend your bravery and I commend your honesty, and it's not easy, so I really appreciate you, because what you don't understand is there might be someone out there like yourself that listen to our pain and wanted to speak. There must be someone out there that
might feel the same way.
Someone related to our pain, just as someone would relate to yours.
And not only that, they may not want to speak, but they heard how you feel and can relate to you and be like, oh, thank God there's someone else out there that's like me, that's have to, so I don't feel alone. And I feel like we need more people to speak out. And yeah, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
It's been good. It's like therapy.
Good.
That's the point.
Can I ask you a question? Have you received any therapy or any counselling?
I did 2 counselling sessions, bereavement counselling, and both the sessions I cried all the way through to the point where they told me to go home.
Wow.
I did 2, and that was the first when my mum first died. Since then, I don't. I just pray. I do check-ins. I speak to close people around me, and that's it.
That's good.
My siblings. Yeah, I got close people around me. I'm not gonna.
I think that helps majorly, because I haven't had any counselling. I feel like I potentially would benefit from it. I would need it. I strongly believe if I'm transitioning into becoming a mother, and if I was to be married.
Yeah.
Because those processes there, which nearly every woman would want their mum by their side, I feel like I'm going to need help.
Yeah, same.
But that's years down the line, so I don't know.
Same, because I'm not married. I know what in Asian culture, when you're getting married, your mum does. Your mum's there, happy. I'm not going to have that. So it's one of them ones where...
She's still around, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to say thank you again. And King, is there anything you feel that you want to...
I think I just echo what you said. Thank you for telling your story. I feel like, your story will help somebody else. Even though you spoke about being courageous, even though you said you just did what you did, I see it as courage. Someone else they might be in that courage situation right now and look to you for inspiration.
Yeah, and what you shared that some may not know about, if someone's passing away, what to do, the to-dos, and it's good. And, not knowing that you can't call the hospital but call GP.
Yeah.
Those little
because I didn't know that.
Those little things will go a long way, because there might be someone that's suffering right now, and at least they feel comfortable knowing what to do. So I really appreciate it.
We wish you all the best, and we're still here.
Thank you.
You want to come back? The door's open.
Yeah.
What to talk about? What
talk all you want about.
Listen, we only spoke about
a fraction.
A fraction of something.
Journey.
And you got to understand, just because you come and spoke on the podcast about your story, that doesn't mean that this story cannot carry on, because there's so much parts.
There's so many different parts.
Because I've shared parts of my mum's story, but there's so much more to it, and it's like, when does it end? It doesn't end, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't end. So yeah, we shall resume.
M Bison.
M Bison. Lady M Bison.
I don't really feel like the boss right now.
Nah, I told you, you're not going to be the boss.
Wreck.
Listen, you're a boss to somebody, man.
Yeah.
Somebody's watching this and saying she's a boss.
Yeah. But don't gas her up too much.
That's all I'm going to say.
Alright.
Thank you, guys.
Cool.
Thank you. Boom.